Good Friday morning, and welcome to another week of Account-Based Friday that Meg and I have been hosting now for, over a year plus. We got a great guest joining us early morning from San Francisco, Shari Johnston, the general manager for the Revenue Academy of Winning by Design. And each week, we start off with a poll. But before we get in the poll, you've got a chance to participate in this conversation as well. If you have questions for Shari, Meg, myself, drop them in LinkedIn, and we will promote those up onto the screen and get your questions addressed. So it's your opportunity to participate in our conversation each week. And today, we start off with a poll around AI, because that's the topic that we're going to be talking about, and specifically around the challenges that people are facing with AI across sales and marketing. And I think this is a first in that in our polls each week that we have, the guest, Meg, and I all voted the exact same way, which is consistent adoption across the organization. But Meg, what was your reaction to the poll, or what are you seeing?
First, I thought it was a great question, and super happy to have Shari Johnston here to help us sort it out. And the reason I answered this to me is that old saying about the future's here. It's just not evenly distributed yet. This is definitely going to be a case of, you'll see some early adopters coming out with some big wins where they're learning about what's possible, they're practicing, they're making use of these tools now. But not everybody in an organization is going to have a comfort level with this. And I think it's the same thing we've seen with pretty much any other technology that comes along. Some people adapt, it's the old adoption curve, right? Some people are on it right away. Other people are fast followers to that. And that's where I think we are now with some of the AI stuff. And then other people remain concerned about the impact it's going to have on their company, on their job, on their industry. I'm in the research and advisory business. There's plenty of conversation there. And I think this is where, we just have to help people understand that, as one of the people on my team likes to say, cyborgs are better than either robots or humans. When you put them together, when you put the technology together with what only humans can bring to the equation, that's where in the near term, and I'm guessing the long term too, is where we're going to see the value. But I'm very excited to turn things over to our guest to comment on the poll. Shari Johnston, we're so lucky to have you here today. You've got an amazing role leading one of, I think, the most innovative training programs, knowledge, the Revenue Academy at Winning by Design. If people haven't looked at it, it's amazing. And Shari's done a beautiful job leading that and innovating and doing some really cool stuff. And Shari is also one of the pioneers of account-based marketing, having been at Demandbase, building up the ABM practice at Winning by Design. Her background and knowledge of the market is second to none. So delighted to have you here on Account-Based Friday, Shari, and super curious to hear your take on our poll.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me both. I'm excited to be here today. This poll is interesting in that, I definitely think this, agree with you guys that the consistent adoption is going to be a challenge for a while, in that AI is a little bit different of a technology than, let's say, a marketing automation or even an account-based platform where you're implementing it across a team, where AI is specific to adding efficiencies to various functions. So right now, a lot of the, as you mentioned, Meg, efficiencies are on individual reps who've done some amazing implementations, more than, hey, the entire team is leveraging AI across the board. So there's a little bit of difference there, and I think it'll take a bit more change management to get from the early adopters down to everybody feeling comfortable with just changing their workflows, understanding it, how to incorporate it into day to day.
Yep, agreed. And you've had an opportunity, it sounds like, over the last little while to be on the front lines of hearing about people, hearing from people across the country about what's happening between some investor meetups and some learning tours with Pavilion. Would love for you to share, what are some of the main things you learned, some of the trends you're seeing and hearing about from these meetups of go-to-market folks?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've had the opportunity to, ahead of the go-to-market summit in Nashville, we did a road show with the Pavilion team, as well as a variety of private equity investor events, including one yesterday with Norwest. Just kind of hear from C-level go-to-market leaders to understand, what's happening, what are the trends. John and I were talking earlier. It's tough times. There's a lot of pipeline and revenue challenges, and getting things across the line across the board are harder. And I think it's a little bit of therapy for everybody to be like, okay, it's not just me that now it takes 7 stakeholders when it used to take 3. And now the CFO has a lot more checkboxes for me than it used to. And prospecting takes a lot more research and effort in order to make that connection and that engagement with my prospects. So that was a universal trend that we saw across the board with those listening tours, and across marketing leaders, sales leaders. But one kind of overall trend I did hear in terms of that is a functional change to what we're used to in the typical marketing to SDR to sales rep approach that we typically are used to and go to market is, that people are just seeing a really low ROI on the SDR function. I think more than ever, to get engagement by buyers, that it just requires more. There's more scrutiny. People are more discerning. And the typical, hey, mass email out of SalesLoft or outreach, et cetera, is just not producing the results that are needed. And so this was a common trend in either significantly reducing the SDR function, or in some cases, we had some companies that were eliminating it altogether. But what is the result of that? John, you were saying, they still have to produce pipelines. So, there needs to be a replacement for that. And, one thing we're seeing commonly at Winning by Design is that replacement is being asked on the AE function. So we are seeing better results with more senior outreach and engagement that usually includes the name, the title, the research, the acumen in the industry that an AE or even executive can provide to a prospect that an SDR might not. But what the result of that is a lot more work on the AE. They already had a really full plate and a big quota to obtain that's already challenging to close. So I think as we go back to our account-based days, we all know and love the one-to-one account-based play, and this is, I think, getting a lot more attention to be executed by the AEs. And John, you and I were talking a little earlier how it's not all, a lot of AEs have been lucky enough to have a lot of inbound for the last decade or so, and prospecting is not something in their wheelhouse.
Yeah, it's you bring up a lot of interesting points there about the SDR function or BDR function, maybe diminishing in terms of the hiring or net new hiring. Are you seeing any evidence with AI doing any backfilling? Meaning, have you heard any companies saying, hey, you know what, instead of taking a BDR, I'm going to get XYZ technology and test that to see if it's better than a BDR, or supplements a BDR AE? Or are we at that stage yet? Is it more of just, like you were saying, hey, it's totally on the AE to kind of pick up the slack, and there's just not net new investment right now? I'd be very curious to see, like where do you see AI playing into that, if at all?
Yeah. Well, I'll start with an interesting story out of Professor Dr. Howard Dover, who does some really interesting research in a lab out of his Texas University. And he did an interesting experiment he shared with us during Dreamforce around, and of course, this is in a lab setting, so it's not in a real life setting in one example, but I did find it fascinating where he himself had a pretty sophisticated tech stack with AI-enabled Lavender and whatnot, and had an SDR team use AI-enabled research and prospecting, and their connect rate was amazing. I don't have the data in front of me, but I believe it was something like 3x a normal SDR connect rate. However, using the same experiment, once the SDR got on the call, this was the conversion rate was even lower than it was normally without the AI-enabled engagement. So it was almost like his hypothesis was, they sort of, it made it look like the SDR was potentially, had business acumen and insights and whatnot to offer the prospect, but then once they got on the call, were very discouraged by the situation, and that was actually not the case. And I found that was a really interesting experiment, because we have isolated that AI research and engagement can really help and work. However, you still need the connection back to that senior leader that can provide value back to the prospect. And so yeah, I think, to your point, that what we're seeing is that the AE themselves can really use some of the AI functionality to help them become more efficient in various places in the sales cycle, since they are having more and more pressure on them to not only close, but also produce pipeline. So everything kind of from more admin work, such as like meeting automation through Calendly, through meeting notes automation, I think is one of my favorites. It sounds kind of boring and normal, but gosh, how much time do we spend trying to document our discovery calls and really get all those insights in there, and tools like Sybil AI and whatnot have really helped move the needle.
So thinking about that, so you just mentioned a couple that are great. So meeting automation with things like Calendly, thinking about helping with notes and follow-up. Oh my gosh, how many hours have we all spent doing that? To me, it's also a game changer for consulting interviews, when you can really be more in the moment and listen to what people are saying, instead of like frantically trying to make sure you don't miss anything. Like that's just makes life so much better. But what other things are you seeing? And in particular, I just saw a great question from our friend Lenise. Hi, Lenise. I'm glad you're here. Thinking about what can tools like Sixth Sense and conversational email be some kind of a replacement for some of that mass outbound? Like, do you still need that? Or would a tool like Sixth Sense help to do that at a more one-to-one level? What are you seeing in terms of the account-based platforms helping here?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the definitely, again, in my experience, hold a huge amount of value in helping an individual be more efficient. But as John and I were talking about earlier, I think the mindset, if you're new to AI, is that it's not a replacement. So for instance, as the example with automating an email writing, whether you're using Sixth Sense Conversations or you're using ChatGPT to help you craft an email, etc., or even Sybil AI, we were talking about, does a great job of meeting notes, but converting those into an email, none of them can be just sent as is. You really want to have the mindset of that AI is going to chop off 50 to 70% of the monotonous work that is required in this task, but I'm still going to need to provide my layer of expertise and derobotation of the asset to make sure that it's hitting the mark. To me, that's still a win. I will take not doing monotonous tasks, reducing it by 70% is a huge win. But I think the expectation that some AEs or folks that we're consulting with have, that it's just going to be an easy button and it just kind of goes off by itself, is just unfortunately not where we're at today on most any AI that I have had experience with so far.
What are some?
I'd be curious too.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, John.
Just thinking about kind of who's using AI when you're talking about sales and marketing. I was at a conference last week, a sales enablement conference, and I think I was probably the only marketer in the room. It's a long story I happened to be at. And it was interesting to hear this particular group who said, quote unquote sales should be leading the AI effort in the organization, and that CMOs were quote unquote dated in their understanding of AI. I'm not seeing that at all, but I was in a room full of sales enablement people, and that was the perception. But I don't know if that was just the exception or the perception. Like, what are you seeing there in terms of, is there anybody taking the lead organizationally as you're talking to these companies, or is it too early days, like you were saying, where maybe we're not quite there yet? Like, what are you seeing in terms of your engagements?
Yeah, I definitely have not seen or even thought about a difference between the leadership between being in a sales versus marketing situation. I think what I have seen, and this was backed by a Gartner analyst and a few other AI organizations that do have solutions for enterprises, is that there's kind of two paths to adopting AI. There's kind of the early adopter cowboy that could be any function, right? It could be HR is also an area that AI has been adopted in quite well and have a lot of monotonous tasks that can be automated. Sales and marketing for sure. I mean, yesterday was the Growth Marketing Summit, so it was definitely marketing leader oriented, and there was a lot of adoption and interesting use cases more on the marketing side. But what I have seen is that there's two paths of, there's either those leaders who are just see the efficiency, have use cases that would help their organization and bring in point solutions to their organization. So as an example, we brought in, as our sales leader brought in civil AI to our entire sales force or our sales team, or our managing director team. And so what they've established is they create meeting notes. I mean, how many times have you gone into Salesforce or HubSpot and like there's no information on the account, right? Like, how frustrating is that for everybody on the team? So Civil now automates the meeting notes, and then using our SPICE framework, writes back situation, pain, and impact into the fields within our CRM, so that there's no way that there is no information on this account moving forward. But everybody in the organization has visibility into the discovery of this account because it is automated. And in this case, even if there's like a slight nuance to how you might deliver the sentence, it's CRM data and is quite good and probably better than I would have seen AEs collect notes on their own and put them into a CRM, even if they do that. And then there's the other use case where in larger enterprise organizations, which probably doesn't apply to as much here on this call, but there is usually AI committees. And because larger organizations have a lot more oversight over what AI usage, what kind of data you can put from the organization into AI tools, there's actually like a committee who actually is required to decide what types of efficiencies and tools are used throughout the organizations. And there's some really cool ones that are not go-to-market oriented, where I can imagine if anyone's worked at a large organization, I've worked at Cisco and a few others, where, oh my gosh, you're just trying to find out when what your security policy is, and it's going to take you 15 portals to look around and find it, where they're using AI and natural language learning to help you pull all that internal information together and have a place where you can easily access all of the organization's tools and prompt them immediately, which adds so much efficiency to organizations. So I love hearing all these use cases that were hard, where AI can really help you. But those are the two ways I'm seeing it, not necessarily a functional thing, but either the early adopter cowboys, no matter what function they are, I think, again, see it more commonly at the functions that have the most pain and monotonous tasks. And I would say that, potentially having been on the sales and marketing side, there is a lot of monotonous tasks in sales. As we all know, anywhere between sales reps only spend between 28 and 35% of their time, depending on which report you look at, actually selling, right? A lot of their time is spent doing, a lot of research and putting in notes and, CRM hygiene. And if we can help automate a lot of that for them, then and get them out into the field and talking with customers more, all the better.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kenny, hello, Kenny, was asking about the company you mentioned that Winning by Design is using. You said Sybil, right?
Sybil AI is what we use to collect notes. Sybil does a really great job. I know, John, you mentioned you use it as well. I'm really impressed with their meeting taking. They do a summary of the discovery call and really call out the main actions. And then they actually do you can expand it to a more comprehensive collection of the notes. Writing it back to Salesforce, Kenny, I believe that was something that was custom done or to our CRM. But I would have to check on with our sales leader of exactly what functionality he's using to do that with. But Sybil is the one that's collecting the notes and putting it into the spiced format.
Love that. Great use of Spice.
Yeah, we've been using it, but we've not been integrating it. So we use it as standalone. And to your point, Sherry, I think it's one of the best tools out there. So it's fantastic for note taking, and you can to you and Meg's point, you can be really focused in the conversation as opposed to writing things down and remembering, and the search capabilities and sentiment that you can also take away from the call has been particularly valuable. Sorry, Meg, I interrupted you.
Oh, no, not at all. I'm glad you brought that up. Go ahead, Sherry.
It is really good. I'll say one effect of how I don't love it is that some folks are sending their chatbots, whether it's Sybil or AI, to one webcast I was on. It was like all these chatbots and not very many people, and I was like, this is just so awkward to present to a bunch of chatbots. So that I guess effect of it was not my favorite, but it is really good at taking notes.
There you go. Well, Sherry, one of the things you and Winning by Design are on the front lines of is developing really effective learning for go-to-market people. What are some of the things that have changed in terms of the way that you are presenting and engaging with sellers to help them get the skills they need? And not just sellers, and I know you work with marketing and customer success as well, but curious to hear what you think are some of the more interesting changes to online and offline engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. We have, really looked at, again, back to that idea of, you can focus AI on the areas that have the most monotonous tasks that you really want to get through. And I think everyone could probably agree, and feel free to argue with me if you don't, but that account research and just research in general can be, time consuming, and we put it to the bottom of the list, and it's not super fun. So that is one that we prioritized early, because we teach that in our courses of doing account persona research, of course, as part of our sales certification. And hey, why not use AI to help automate that and train learners on being more efficient in the process. So now our courses include how to use AI prompts to convert, for instance, a 10K into a more provocative statement. To save you time. So, it's not really, again, completely reinventing the whole sales cycle or doing away with it, but taking different points in the sales cycle that can really benefit tremendously by AI efficiency and adopting it. So that's one. I think, we particularly hone in on this prompt specifically on a 10K, but obviously I've seen amazing other prompts around, how to use account research to, or how to use AI for account research that can be incredibly effective at helping you gather details on company size, background, initiatives, etc., that may take you otherwise hours to Google search through. So the other ones that we do are really creating content. As we know, I think this is one area that I get really excited about AI with account-based. I was even at the session yesterday, and John Miller was giving really great insights and templates around how to do ABM. But if we're honest, it's a really complex situation. We have matrices of there's, hundreds of channels, and for one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many, you use these channels and not these ones. And it's not easy. It's correct. Don't get me wrong. I've done it for years. I know, Meg, you've done it for years. It is, it is accurate, but that's a lot. Like, people see that. I tried to implement, or we implement account-based at many different organizations. And, I understand that the change management can be challenging to get to, all of those details. So it excites me to realize how AI could potentially really unlock the value that account-based has, because it is so powerful, but it's not an easy button. But AI maybe make the button a tiny bit more easy than it is. So things like developing, you don't want to go into an account-based function without having strong, relevant content for your personas, strong, relevant customer stories for the segments that you're targeting, or even the account that you're targeting. But all that content creation takes a lot of time. And this is the pushback that I think people, shy away from when wanting to do it. But I think more and more so, this is the way people are winning deals. This is the way people are actually being successful at pipeline generation. And so using AI to help you generate persona cards, using AI to help you generate relevant customer stories can help you get there a lot quicker, and not make account-based and the targeting and relevancy seem so overwhelming.
I love that you brought that up. I think that's been one of the hard things about ABM right from the beginning. People look at it and they're like, whoa, this looks really hard. And I think the technology has caught up to the ambitions that we all have to be relevant and meaningful and impactful in every interaction. And I'm excited about the potential, going forward. John, looks like you had a comment, though. I'll let you go ahead.
All I was just going to add on that is it's almost like you've got AI from both sides of the equation right now. You've got the tool sets that have AI. So let's say the ABX platform, 6 Sense or Demand Base. You've got Outreach that has its own AI capabilities, and SalesLoft too. So you have the AI and the tools, and then you have the standalone tools to do that account research that you mentioned, Sherry, of the Perplexities, the Claudes, the ChatGPT-4. So it's really interesting. There's so many different AI elements right now that it's really hard to keep track of all of them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't claim to have the tech stack down completely when it comes to AI. I'm still learning around, which types of technology is most effective for go-to-market. The ones I hear the most of in my world is, as I mentioned, Sybil. Lavender has been, really touted for adding to the SDR or prospecting function as a great tool. So some really good ones. But yeah, I'm a student of the AI tech as well. So I'm excited to keep learning and uncovering tidbits of people who are really, really getting it right. As you talked about, John, I think the AI is not all created equal, and also, even with the best AI, we just can't expect it to completely automate the function. It's really like an assist versus a complete automation.
Yeah, I think assist is the key point right now, right? At least we need to be doing that, and then we'll see where it goes from here. Sherry, I know we're at time, and we're just so lucky you joined us today. Thank you. I'm very happy you could come in and share with us what you're learning from all of your adventures around the country.
Well, thank you for having me. It was really fun thing to start off my Friday, and I hope you guys have a great weekend.
Absolutely. Well, before we go, I want to recognize, we've got Veterans Day coming up. Many people are observing that on this Friday. And I just want to recognize our own John Russo, who is an esteemed veteran of the armed forces, and also was recently appointed to join the University of Connecticut, our shared alma maters. Their Connecticut Center for Entrepreneurship and Innovation has a veterans part of what they do. And John has been asked to be their veteran entrepreneur. So he continues to help those who help the rest of us. So thank you for that, John. Thank you for your service, and to all of our veterans for their service.
I'm grateful, and thank you for the support. And great way to end Friday and Friday conversation. And next week, we've got a mystery guest. We're going to have same time, same place. We'll have a mystery guest for next week and this week. Grateful that Sherry could join us as well. So thank you, Sherry, for making it up early and and starting the weekend on the right foot. So thank you.
Absolutely.
All right. Happy Friday, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.